Hi and welcome to another 80s Song of the Day. So far on the 80s Song of the Day, I've been looking at UK and Australian bands, and I'll admit my musical preferences, though pretty diverse, have always skewed a little towards new wave and Britpop, so that's no surprise there. But it would be remiss of me not to take a look at some bands from across the pond, as they say. So this week we're taking a look at a classic hit, I Can't Go For That, No Can Do, from Hall and Oates. Darryl Hall and John Oates met in 1967 at a band competition in Philadelphia, where they were each fronting their own groups. They discovered they had similar music interests and were coincidentally both attending Philadelphia's Temple University. Despite forming a good friendship and even sharing a couple of apartments together, they did not initially start a group together until a couple of years later, and then eventually released their first album on Atlantic Records in 1972. They had incredible output, releasing an album a year from 1972 until 1982. All these albums, though, only produced a smattering of hits. Rich Girl was a number one in 77, but otherwise things were moving slowly. That changed when we entered the 80s. They had a series of chart-topping hits that made them one of the most successful duos in music history. I Can't Go For That was the second single from their 10th album, Private Eyes, which also featured the chart topper by the same name, as well as Kiss on My List and You Make My Dreams. Many listeners, myself included, assumed the lyrics of I Can't Go For That were about a relationship, but the song is actually about the music industry. Hall has stated, I felt very manipulated at the time by management and the record business, like a pawn. I can't go for that, no can do. That was something I said a lot. And this was apparently a common theme in the band's songs, 1982's Man-Eater being another example. Released in November of 81, I Can't Go For That slowly rose to the top of the charts over the course of 11 weeks, where it stayed at number one for just 1 week at the end of January 1982. When it hit number one, it ended a 10-week run for Olivia Newton-John's mega hit Physical. Physical had itself toppled Hall and Oates' previous single Private Eyes from the top spot. It went to number one in the US on the Billboard Top 100, the dance club songs, the hot soul singles, which was a really rare thing for a white music act at the time, and the radio and records airplay charts. It reached number 2 in Canada, number 5 in New Zealand, and 13 here in Australia. It was also voted number 6 on VH1's list of the 100 greatest songs of the 80s. There's a leanness to this song. The 70s were big and bombastic in a lot of ways, but early 80s songs were often influenced by the straightforward simplicity of new wave and punk. You've got a drum beat, a bass line, a simplistic keyboard riff with some little shimmers, and a couple of guitar notes. The boys' vocal harmonies carry the rest of the song. The saxophone solo is performed by Charlie DeChant, who worked with the duo regularly, and despite what you see in the video, it's actually played on a saxillo, which is a wood instrument rather than brass and more closely resembles a clarinet. Michael Jackson once admitted to Hall that he lifted the bass line for Billie Jean from Can't Go For That. The duo weren't upset because, as Hall said, he'd probably lifted it from something else himself and claimed it was a common practice in the industry. It's also been repeatedly sampled by other artists. De La Soul pinched some pieces in 1989 for their anti-drug song Say No Go. Probably the most egregious use, though, was by Simply Red on a 2003 track called Sunrise, which almost just replaces Hall and Oates vocals with Mick Hucknall's, albeit singing a different melody, and the rest was left the same. Darryl Hall and John Oates continued to record until as recently as 2023, but a dispute over music rights and counterclaims has caused a rift between the famous pairing. At present, the two are very sadly not on speaking terms. So anyway, that's your 80s song of the day. I hope you enjoy it. We'll see you next time.